Hi, my name is Olivia Liepa, and I am a member of Project Group 105, and I am going to be starting off our demonstration of our Streaming Wars application. Before our team presents our implementation, I will be going over a brief summary of the project modifications we addressed and our final technical deployment. Our first project modification, archivability, was addressed by setting up a database to store our data and setting up data archiving within our database, which we will illustrate in our demonstration. By archiving older data, this ensures that our system is able to locate current data more efficiently as well as meet regulatory compliance. Our second project modification, configurability, was addressed by setting up a web-based user interface to replace the command line interface and provide users with more intuitive and efficient ways to interact with our data. Our third project modification, auditability, was addressed by setting up a table to capture the data changes, including any activity made by a user or admin, time logs, and affected data components. Additionally, we make this accessible to the admin on the user interface. For our technical deployment, our team focused on using tools that were lightweight, easy to get started with, and tools that some of the team was familiar with in order to have the highest chance of success. For our front-end design, we use the TypeScript-based Angular framework, along with various HTML and CSS components, as well as the Angular material library, which allowed us to give users a richer and more intuitive experience. Our server component was built in Java with Spring Boot in order to communicate with the user interface. The database component of our design was built in PostgreSQL. Lastly, all of our components are built in Docker images and orchestrated using Docker Compose. In designing our architectural improvements, we were met with various challenges and needed to make several important design considerations that we will discuss as we go over our back-end and front-end design. Next, Nick will discuss the design of our back-end and go into greater detail on the technologies we used and implemented.
The back-end is a Java application powered by Spring Boot. It talks to a Postgres database to store all the entities needed by the application. Both the Spring Boot app and the database are packaged into Docker images and deployed along the front end via Docker Compose. To achieve our configurability requirement, entities can be updated via controllers. These controllers are exposed over HTTP routes, and the particular update routes are exposed over HTTP put actions. The controllers will return an HTTP OK response on a valid call, and an HTTP bad request response if an invalid input was given. Each call to create, read, update, or delete an entity gets logged through this audit service here. These audit records track the entity ID, the actual time of the request, the entity type, demographic group, streaming service, studio, etc., the actual user that made the request, the action that happened, create, read, update, or delete, and the value of that entity at the time of the request. The value is put there so an admin can see how the value of an entity changes over time, and as well as figure out what fields were changed in the case of an unauthorized modification. These audit records are stored in their own database table and can be queried at any time. The main method of this audit service is this overloaded audit method. You see one here with demographic group. There's another one here with event offering, and then you see a bunch more here with all of our other entities. This was done to create a unified interface for all of our other services to audit events as they occurred. Let's take a look at an example. For example, here, I want to get a demographic group by ID. I fetch it from the repository, check that it isn't actually null, and then I call auditService.audit. I pass in the entity, the actual action that happened, the user ID that made the request, and then the value of the group. And it's the same thing for updating. I do my validation, I save the new group to the database, and then I call auditService.audit. And I can pass in the updated group, pass in the update action, the user ID, and the value of the updated group. To achieve our archivability requirement, we leverage Spring Boot's scheduled tasks feature. This lets us schedule a task however often as we wish. Updating the frequency at which the task is run is as simple as just updating the task itself.
Next, I'm going to be demonstrating our front-end implementation. We start our front-end the same way we start our back-end, with Docker Compose. When our Docker containers are running, we can navigate to localhost at port 8888. Here, we will find our login screen. The login screen provides a way for our system to do a simple check to see if our user is a privileged role or a regular user. With this check, we can give privileged users access to more sensitive data, such as our audit logs, directly from the user interface. For now, I'm going to enter as a regular user. When we have entered our login information, we can click Submit, and we are brought to our home page. Directly from the home page, we can navigate to any of our other pages through the navigation bar at the side of the screen, as well as through the icons at the top right of the page. Next to the icons, we can also see the current period. Next, we will start using our application by adding in some data. First, we will go to the demographic groups page and view some of the existing data. As you can see, we have several different data entries in the table ordered by an ID. However, with configurability made possible by a graphical user interface, we can also sort each of these fields by column. Additionally, we can search for any value within this table using the filter on the left. These aspects of Angular material lend very well to configurability and usability of our application. Next, we can take a look at adding in new demographic groups. It's very simple. All you have to do is click the Add button, and you can enter in a short name, a long name, and a number of accounts. Once you're done, you just select Create, and now we should see a success message, and the table should automatically update. So we can also edit the demographic group if we choose. So I'm going to do that real quick. And then lastly, to give us even more configurability with our data, we have added the option to export our data to Excel. We can even apply filters to the data before we export. Here I will show you how I can export on the filter data. Okay, so now that we've added our demographic groups, we can try adding some studios. So similarly, we can view the existing data on this page and add new data, which I'll now do. Next, we can try adding in some streaming services. And next, I will try adding in some events. And so on the events page, you can also filter for movie or PPV or both if you choose. And now we get to offer these events by supplying their event ID. Additionally, if we want to delete an event offering, we can do that from the event offerings page. So now if I go to the studio, we can now see that we have made a profit for these offerings. So now if we want to have a demographic group watch one of our events, we simply go to the Watch Events tab on the left and enter in the event ID and demographic group. Now, if we go to the demographic group, we can see that the appropriate costs have been added to the group. We can also go to the streaming service and see that money has been added to their account as well. Next, I will demonstrate how we can update our other user settings and preferences. So if we navigate to the user icon in the top right corner, we are brought to the user preferences page. In the first section, we have account preferences, And here we can configure the color scheme of our user interface to our preference. And then next we have our time preferences. Here I can update to the next month, or I can change the system date to a custom date of my choosing. So first we'll try next month. And as you can see, the layout has been updated. We can also actually go really quick to our streaming services, and we can see that our old current month's profits are now our previous month's profits. They've been added to the total. And now I'm going to go back to my settings just to show off the custom date choosing, and we're just going to put it a few months ahead. And there we go. So yeah, let's check out the streaming services now. So now we shouldn't even see that data on there anymore. Yep, it just shows up in the total. So yeah, this provides much greater configurability than the command line application, which did not allow you to customize your system time. So now finally, if we want to view our audit logs, we must log into an admin account. And I will do this by just going to the home screen. And so now I'm just going to enter the admin user password. Okay, so now by selecting the shield icon on the top right, we can see our admin resources. So here we can explore our audit logs and compare them to the user IDs. And being able to access these audit logs easily and securely is a truly essential aspect of providing auditability in our application. And with that, this brings us to the end of our Streaming Wars application demonstration. So as you can hopefully see, auditability, configurability, and archivability all contributed to major changes and enhancements in our application and influenced many of our design decisions. So thank you for watching our demonstration, and we hope you enjoyed.